Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we'll be talking about the semi-final between Fan Yin 8p and Shin Jinseo 9p as promised. Fan Yin is playing as black and Shin Jinseo is playing as white, and the game starts out like this. By the way, I was just watching a professional commentator, and he has the stats between two players. At this point in professional game, Fan Yin is at 1-2. So Fan Yin won against Shin Jinseo in one game, and Shin Jinseo won two games from Fan Yin in their match history. So Shin Jinseo is at an advantage, but it's not one-sided, right? Fan Yin still has some chances, as he has proven that. So white takes the corner, and black decides to play a connected moyo. At this point, we can see that Fan Yin's strategy becomes really clear. He wants a big moyo fight to drag Shin Jinseo into a very fierce life and death fight, which I think is a great idea, especially when you think your opponent is slightly better. Okay, so white placed the big Keima enclosure, and black follows up with idea. I really like what black is playing here. Very consistent idea, right? Trying to have a big connected moyo. Shin Jinseo is playing just like the world's #1 player. Not panicking, not worrying about what's going to happen here. It's very confident about invasion in here. Next up, we have Fan Yin playing the pincer. Well, you can call this an extension actually. So it's trying to pressure white's corner and also expand the win of this connected moyo. Another way to play is for Fan Yin to play the Keima. This is also a very nice follow-up. Against this, white will take the other vital point, and it's also possible that white can play the Hane connect, right? Looking to solidify the corner, but also leave a weakness. If black fix it, then white can invade here, and it's not really possible to kill white here, even if black can start a very fierce attack. So that's one way of playing for black as well. In the actual game, Fan Yin decided to build a moyo on the bottom as well to connect with the moyo on top and really just follow up with his idea, which I think is really nice. In the actual game, Shin Jinseo played the Kosumi here. This is a very important local follow-up. It's pretty much always the move you want to play. It not only strengthens the corner, but also expands towards the left side. So when our opponent has a giant moyo, it's always important to remember that we have moyo as well. So spending move to build our moyo is also valuable. All right, so at this point, black decides to follow up with a jump, which I really liked. Here it would be, it's an okay move to attach into the corner. The problem with this is that it's not consistent with your idea. For example, if white extends, you Hane, white Hanes. So this is the local Joseki. When black plays the Keima here, white can Hane on top. And we can see that black gains some territory, but then the influence is back into white's hand. And now, because of the white's influence over here, this makes the invasion, for example, the invasion over here a lot easier, right? The invasion over here also feels a lot easier because white has some helpers. So that's the cost of taking territory right now. Of course, that is also playable, but Fan Yin decided to really follow up with his idea to fight Shin Jinseo inside his territory. All right, next up, we have Shin Jinseo directly invading the moyo. When I was watching the game, I thought the move I would have played here was definitely the jump over here, because this makes so much sense. Right? We're building our moyo on the left, but we're also reducing black's moyo. So it felt like a very important point of the game. But anyway, I guess what Shin Jinseo played was also fine. Right? We try to break the moyo here first, and then we think about how to break it on this side. And this is exactly what Fan Yin was hoping for, an invasion like this, so he can start an attack. And that's exactly what he's doing. He plays the Kosumi and getting rid of the roots. Here, if white tries to slide into black, black can simply play the Kosumi to defend it. White crawls, black will extend. And this is a very nice move. Instead of blocking leaves weakness, black should make sure he's rock solid, and then he can punch white really hard here. If white hops out, then black can kick Kosumi. Very nice combination, and then a cap on top. And this is very difficult for white to deal with, actually. So instead of playing really heavy here, we should learn from what Shin Jinseo played in this game. That is to invade over here. So that's a very advanced idea. A lot of times we don't really have to deal with our invasion stone. Instead, we can start a battlefield somewhere else and later on see how we can connect the two stones. At this point, Fan Yin jumps down, making sure White cannot slide in, and the next move, Shin Jinseo plays a brilliant move, hopping in a very fast way towards the center. Right, what you don't want to play is something like jumping very slow, because when you play really slow, first of all, there's a peep, and then there's a cap. Right, all of a sudden, White could be in trouble, and I'm pretty sure a lot of my viewers, a lot of times you would struggle with trying to live a dragon, and that's exactly kind of what we have to learn. Well, no, we have to. I would love if you learn something from this game. That is for you to play light, right? In this way, it's harder for our opponent to attack us. And of course, I have a series made a few years back called The Invader. So if you want to check out the series, I can put the link down in the description. But if you want to search my channel, it's just called Invader series or something. It has like about 20 videos or even more where I talk about how to invade moyos. So White's move, absolutely brilliant. If Black goes for attack right now, White will deal with this in a very light way. So White gonna Hane, Black extends, and here White can jump out. When you kill the stone on the third line, I don't really care because then I can just keep playing shape move. We can see that the main group that White has is out. And yeah, this actually looked really nice for White, right? Like we're sacrificing the stone and we have a very nice shape. So Black doesn't want to immediately attack this formation. Instead, in the actual game, Fan Yin decides to hop from the outside, putting pressure from behind, right? Temporarily, there's no way to connect the two groups. For example, a common mistake that we could make is to jump here. This looks nice locally, but actually it's a terrible move because Black can now simply cut us off. And then both of our groups are attacked at the same time, and it's impossible for us to deal with both weak groups, right? So the idea here for White, when you reach this position, is to sacrifice your stone over here and take care of the main group, because you can't really invade everywhere at the same time and make sure your opponent doesn't have any territory, right? That type of thinking is very risky for you because eventually you'll get your dragon killed somewhere because you overplayed and not allowing your opponent to have any territory. Now let's look at what Shin Jinseo played instead. Shin Jinseo decided to jump over here, and that's exactly the type of move that we want to learn from, because with this move, it protects our two stones, and it's hoping Black would just play the Kosumi and capture our stones. If that happens, then White will play another Tsuji, attaching to our opponent, follow the principle of invasion. Black Hane's on top, we can just extend. When Black extends on the second line, then we can turn here. All of a sudden, we can see that this stone is so well placed. It's aiming at Black's weakness. It's also protecting our connection. So this would be an ideal situation for White. Well, Fan Yin is not an amateur level player. He's a very strong professional, so he understands what White is trying to do, and therefore the next move is brilliant. Black starts an attack at the main group. Instead of focusing on a decoy, Black decides to jump here and attack what matters. And this is a very brilliant move by Black. And the fight gets very fierce here. Shin Jinseo has to protect the shape with a Kosumi, and now Fan Yin peeps from here. This is obviously the shape move. With this move, it's like a needle inside Shin Jinseo's spine right now. This really hurts. You can see White's shape is just broken. And in the actual game, Shin Jinseo also didn't know what to do, so he played a kick over here, which is not accurate. The best move is probably for White to just play the Kosumi and fight this out. Of course, this looks quite risky because when Black pushes, White cannot block right away. White has to go for a counterattack. When Black blocks, White can now block. When Black cuts, White connects, Black connects, and White now plays the connection move. And this creates a miai. We're trying to cut over here, and we're also trying to ladder like this. So that's the idea for White to handle this attack. But of course, this is not easy to see, right? This obviously doesn't look like the shape move because there's so many cutting points. So instead, Shin Jinseo decided to play safe by kicking Black on top, making sure that at least these 4 stones on top are okay. But Fan Yin is not going to let Shin Jinseo off the hook. He pushes on top. White plays the squeezing move, and here black cannot cut because then white Atari and this stone is in trouble. So in the actual game, Fan Yin plays the shape move, very well played by black. We can see with these moves, white is broken into pieces. So first, Shin Jinseo has to save the stone over here by connecting over here, making sure the main group is okay. The problem is that the main group doesn't have an eye yet, and this is quite risky. Black fixes the cutting point, and now white decides to challenge black's shape, right? So white cannot just play soft like this, right? This would not be following the principle of invasion, because when we're trying to invade, we have to be quite aggressive, making use of our opponent's weakness to make sure we are safe. And yeah, this move looks nice, right? But it's actually not good because it violates the principle of invasion. Like, what are you trying to do with this move, right? You're not counter-attacking, you're not attaching to your opponent, you don't really give yourself that much option. You're just simply running in a panic mode. But then when you just move that stone one intersection lower, we all of a sudden have a brilliant move because this move is challenging black's shape over here, and it's following the principle of counterattack. Fan Yin decides to go really hard on this one. He is trying to fight Shin Jinseo to death at this point. He harnesses that it's the best move right now. Any other move would not be as strong, so very well played. White now bumps into black. Black cuts white off, and white cuts black off, and this becomes so fierce. Black has to connect, and white now cuts. Black connects, white harnesses, and now black jumps on the second line, temporarily capturing the two stones on the third line. And white now starts a fierce attack on, against the one stone in the center. Black has to run, and white connects. So when I actually didn't mean that black has to run, but black did run. At first glance, it looked to me that black has to run as well. But actually here, black has a chance to settle. So black can actually cut here, and then Atari. And when white extend, black can also block on the third line. So the result of this is white is alive. But then Fan Yin was able to protect the main territory. Like you can see a giant side plus corner. That's black's main territory. And this game likely is going to become a little bit more peaceful because white has a lot of territory on the outside to compete against this giant piece. So it's a very close game like this. But Fan Yin maybe was not confident about going into a peaceful middle to late game against Shin Jinseo because we all know how good Shin Jinseo is at those type of games. So Fan Yin follows up with the idea, nothing wrong with that, with this very fierce fight against Shin Jinseo, and he believes that this is the only way to win. So the next move, Fan Yin made a turn in the center. At this point, everything went well, I would say, for black. The attack was very fierce. The idea were very consistent. Fan Yin has shown that he is a great player when it comes to early game. However, the next move, black had to play the push here. That's more the shape move. And Fan Yin definitely knows that this is the shape move, but then he turned here anyway. I think it's because he misread. Yeah, it's not because he doesn't understand a certain idea or he doesn't understand shape. It's just he misread, and it's very easy to misread here. So what Fan Yin was thinking was that he can turn here and then jump like this. But then at this point, when white plays the Hane, all of a sudden, he saw something that made him scared. And then he realized he can't jump like this anymore. I think that's what happened. This is what the commentator said, and I totally agree with him because that's the only way I could explain why Fan Yin played the turn and then played the empty triangle, because this is just not the shape for fighting. Now, what black should have played is to push and jump like this, and this would have no problem. Of course, this is still a very fierce fight moving forward. White can make use of the attach, looking at the push and cut. So it's still very fierce and very complicated. On this side, white can also use these attach to get out and counterattack black here. But this would still be a very fierce fight where Fan Yin still has a lot of chances. Now, turning here is quite a big mistake because when white played a Hane on top, this gives white a really good shape. So I want you to kind of remember that this type of shape is usually a good shape because even if black, of course, black can't do this right now, but when black cuts, even if we don't, just let's just say, for example, white plays some whatever moves, Even if like this, it's a great shape because we always have a flip Atari from the outside, right? When you capture, I can Atari again, and when you connect, then I can connect like this, and my shape is actually quite good. So just remember that this is not a bad shape for white at all, right? So first of all, we're playing like this, giving white a very nice shape, but more importantly, and the fatal part is that black cannot jump, right? And this is what I want to talk about. Like, how come black cannot jump here? It looks like fine, right? If you push and cut, I can just run out. There's no ladder. So when you play here, I can connect, and there's nothing, right? Like black can just run out. So how come in the actual game Fan Yin got so scared and he couldn't play the shape move? This is because if you play the shape move here as black, and then when you see the next move white plays, you will resign. Because here, white has a, I can't even call this a Tsuji. I think this is just a ghost move. It's ghost move means it's just like a super Tsuji that is way stronger than a Tsuji. And it's not easy to detect. So the move here is for white to play an empty triangle here. And after this move, I think any high level player would probably resign here because there's a Mii, right? So I'm looking at attaching black over here. I'm looking at the push and cut. So first of all, the push and cut is very easy to understand, right? If you fix the problem here, then obviously this is a resignable moment because you are just dead, right? So that's a very severe threat. So black has to fix it. Doesn't matter how black fix it, then white has an attach over here. And we can see that this is also game over pretty much because the 3 stones are captured. When black connects, we can Hane. When you Atari, then we all know what to do, right? This is very familiar stuff to us. So Fan Yin, at the point when he was turning, probably he didn't see this move. But then when Shin Jinseo played the Hane here, he kind of just verified his reading. And then all of a sudden, he sees a variation that he didn't see before. And that is this move over here. And it looks so counterintuitive. And it shows you why reading is so important. And shows you why like a lot of the strong players would encourage you to do life and death problems is exactly because of moves like these, right? These are just so counterintuitive, and a lot of times in the game of Go, you cannot rely on your intuition. So yeah, that's the mistake that Fan Yin kind of made in this game. So well, fortunately, at least he realized that, and therefore he plays the turn. And there's no problem with this move tactically now. So white now pushes on top, black extend, white keeps pushing, white, and they push a couple times. And at this point, looks like our 4 stones are dead, but actually not at all. Like white has a very nice Tsuji to get himself out, right? We're looking at a push and cut once again. So if you play anything else, then this is coming, and then you can resign once again, right? This is all laddered. So the next move, Fan Yin decided to go for the clamp, very aggressive move, trying to prevent white from connecting through, but also helping out the 5 stones over here. But of course, when something looks so forceful, there's going to be a problem because now white extends and black is broken into pieces. Black now bumps into white, trying to pressure the corner, but then Shin Jinseo is even more aggressive. He just push and cut, and now we go into a life and death fight inside the corner. Black pulls the stone back, and white now hanes. Black pushes, white blocks on top, so the push and cut doesn't work. Because when you cut here, white can also cut like this. It's a double Atari. You capture my 3 stones very happy, but then when I capture 5 stones over here, it's game over. You're not happy anymore. It's just over. White is all alive. This used to be black's moyo, but now look at this, right? So this is not going to happen. The reason black pushes, even if he can't cut, is because he doesn't want white to be able to abandon the 4 stones. In the actual game, white blocks, and Fan Yin comes back to fix the double Atari that we talked about. And here, Shin Jinseo finally comes back to connect the stone in the center. Black Atari, white extends, black pushes out, so Fan Yin is now going for a trade. He's trying to sacrifice the center group to claim the corner. Let's see how that trade goes. So after white extends, black connects. White now plays the first line Hane. This is looking at the double Atari. Black has to connect on the second line. White now plays the tiger's mouth, and now black keeps pushing. white extends, and black has to block on the second line. White now plays the Keima, black now defends with the Kosumi. After this exchange, white extends on the third line. And we can see that the result of this trade is that black lost the center and claimed the corner territory. So the corner has about 15 points, but the center, black lost a lot more. So it's not just points, but also the influence, the fact that, white's group now is completely safe. Those all have values. So that value is a lot more than what black was able to gain from the transfer in the corner. So at this point, because of Fan Yin's turning over here mistake, it's a reading mistake, I believe, the game is under Shin Jinseo's control. This is a leading game for white at this point. If you want to dive deeper and support what I'm doing, check out my Patreon. I regularly post exclusive high-quality content on Joseki's, pro game breakdowns, and even full courses. Stuff you won't find anywhere else. The link is in the description. Thanks so much. Let's continue. Alright, so at this point, Fan Yin knows that he is behind, of course, and then he goes for a very aggressive invasion. This is actually very deep considering how thick white is, right? This moyo is very strong, and you invading very, very deep. And white is going to attack you very fiercely here. All right, so before white goes for the attack, Shin Jinseo is playing so perfectly, right? First, exploiting the corner weakness. And black Atari, white connects. Black has to capture the stone. White flip Atari, common technique. And black captures. White now flip Atari on the first line. Black has to Atari, preventing white coming into the corner. And after these exchanges, white pincers from the outside. We can see that black is in a very dire situation. Black hops towards the center, a very light move, but then white just caps black from the outside. Black uses the jump, white crawls on the third line, and black decides to attach into the opponent when invading. That's a very good principle. White extends, very nice move. If you play here, then that would not be great because black has another clamp. It becomes quite annoying. So to prevent that clamp, white just extends, and that's the correct move to play. And here black plays the Hane, hoping white would cut and giving black more chances to maneuver, but Shin Jinseo plays rock solid by simply turning here. Black plays the tiger's mouth, and white captures the stone. This move shows you the extraordinary understanding of shape by Shin Jinseo, because a lot of us would just Atari here. But actually, this is not the best move because when black connects, white has to connect the weakness, and black can now attach into white and try to lift this group. So this shape over here, this like little car shape, is actually has a lot of ice space, right? This is the understanding of shape in the game of Go. Of course, this is very advanced understanding. When you're trying to live, this shape is better than when white choose this variation. Okay, so the tiger's mouth, the double tiger's mouth, is a very bad shape when you're trying to live because white can peep you and then you don't have any ice space left. So that is the problem with the shape like this. All right, so now black has a bad shape, but black has no choice. He has to take the risk by connecting the stone on the fourth line. Now, strictly speaking, he shouldn't, right? Like, because your group is under so much danger. You're facing a giant wall over here. So at this point, Fan Yin says, you know what? I'm going to connect everything. If you kill me, then you kill me. I don't care. All right, so next up, Shin Jinseo plays the jump, fixing the weakness. And black tries to look for an eye on the bottom. So white blocks. Black plays tiger's mouth. White jumps. Black blocks. White plays the bamboo. And at this point, black desperately trying to run for his life by playing the Keima. Maybe a better move is for black to kick here, right? Looking at pulling the stone back. And this move also gives black some ice space. This would be a very nice shape move. But black doesn't care. Black just wants to run out. Let's see if he can do that. Shin Jinseo first plays the peep. We can see that one eye is gone. And then the next move is a brilliant move by Shin Jinseo. Just like a little dagger. And then all of a sudden, black is just having shape issues. Now black has to protect the eye. And then white plays the Hane on the second line. Not only has points, but also breaks black's eye. Black has to play the tiger's mouth. And now Shin Jinseo is not in a rush. He knows that, you know, if black chooses to live, no problem. I will just build a territory here and win the game in a very easy fashion. Fan Yin knows that, and therefore he goes for the Keima. White turns and black plays the black has to play this move to protect the connection. White Atari, black connects. At least right now, black has one eye. And now white jumps like this. We love this type of move. Not only enclosing the territory, gives us security, but also put pressure on our opponent. Black now pushes, white extends. And black, because of the territorial pressure, had to play something like this. Even if the dragon here is in a lot of danger, see, this is the problem, right? Like when you're having the territorial pressure, like that's when you're gonna have a life and death issues because you don't have time to take care of your isolated groups. Shin Jinseo doesn't rush to kill, right? Because when you try to kill, you could make mistake. Instead, Shin Jinseo focuses on just playing solid moves, trying to connect the stone back. Fan Yin does not allow that, and therefore that leads to Shin Jinseo being able to push through here. And now Shin Jinseo goes for the fierce attack. See, he's checking if he can kill the dragon or not. Now black turns and white plays the tiger's mouth. Black keeps turning, pushing, white blocks, and black now cuts. White extends and black honeys in the center. White plays the tiger's mouth and black plays the double honey. Very aggressive, trying to put max pressure on the liberties of this group. But Shin Jinseo simply extends, following the shape, and there's nothing that black can do here. So after a few exchanges on the left side, where black trying to make an eye, white says no. And then after this exchange, black decides to come back and play the tiger's mouth. White extends, very solid move, right? The next move I'm looking at squeezing here and then wedge, and then you're disconnected. So black has to fix that, and white now peeps at the shape. So after a few exchanges over here, black decides to push. White blocks, black cuts, and white Atari. Black now tries to get home, and here white simply plays the triangle. Now we have a Miai, and then black cannot get home. Black now goes for the final fight. He drags the stone out, looking at the shape problem that white has, but white just Atari in the center. This is a double Atari. And here black tries to live. White bumps into black, black captures, and white Atari, making sure that black doesn't have eye. So right now, black only has one eye. And black plays the Atari, white takes, and black Atari like this, and white captures. So actually, sorry. So I think at this point, when white captured here, then at this point, Fan Yin already resigned at this point. The reason that black resigned is because if black decides to live, which he can, he has to play here, which is very painful because white can capture the 6 points in Sente. And then when you live with just 1 point, 2 point, white can now come back and block over here. And the result of this is that white is already leading on the board, right? Let alone the Komi, right? Probably white can pay black a Komi right now at this point. White is that ahead. So yeah, there's no chance for black in this game. But then if black chooses to not live at all, at this point, if black decides to connect, then white will actually go for the kill. And there's no way for black to live. So this is a Sente. Black has to connect. And white now captures in the center. And there's nothing that black can do on the outside. The only way is for black to try to kill this group over here, right? To save the dragon. So he has to jump. But you can tell from the shape of this is not going to work. White can simply block here. Yes, white has some weaknesses on the outside, but after this, white can simply push through, and then we can see there's no problem, right? You capture, I can Atari, and that's over, right? The dragon is just dead, right? I'm pretty sure most of my viewers, or pretty much all of my viewers, can go play this game and still win as white against Fan Yin, because it's just dead. It's clean dead. There's no end game. There's no point in end games. It's just over. So from this game, we could see that Fan Yin has had a very nice early game where he initiated a very strong attack against Shin Jinseo, put a lot of pressure on his opponent, but eventually, because of a misread in the center, he lost the lead. Actually, the momentum completely shifted towards Shin Jinseo's favor. And then from that point on, Shin Jinseo didn't give Fan Yin any chances. You can see from that how strong Shin Jinseo is, right? Once he has a lead, it's just so devastating for his opponent, and there's no way to come back. So I hope you guys enjoy the game. With this win, Shin Jinseo is going into the final, and he's gonna be playing against another Chinese player, Dang Yifei. That's a very old opponent of his. Like they played many times before, and this is gonna be a very exciting final. It's gonna be the best 2 games out of 3. So yeah, they're gonna be playing like a maximum of 3 games. So I will be also talking about those games. So if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so you don't miss the final game of the Lanke Cup. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one.